are times when we are faced with struggle, and it's how we come over them, is how we are going to succeed in life, but also in our careers and also in business if you are an entrepreneur. And so what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to share some statistics that I'm thinking that they're going to shock you a little bit. And so tonight, this is what we're going to cover. We're going to cover the state of the recovery of women in the workforce post-COVID. We're going to take a look at the effect of having young children in today's workplace. We're also going to talk about the updated statistics on the gender pay gap. And that's the difference between what men are being paid and what women are being paid. And I'm also going to shed some light on the occupational segregation. Okay, I'm going to define what that is and its effects on women's professional careers. And so I'm excited to also include a couple of special guests this evening and also open the chat up for Q&A. And I'm also going to provide some tips on how we can move through this season of life like a boss. If you are a boss, I want you to put boss in the chat. Go ahead and put boss in the chat. And we're going to master your potential. And so I want you to stay to the end so that you can get a special treat that's going to keep you moving forward. I see some bosses coming through the chat. Thank you. And Janae says, boss, the way that I love it. So let's get at it. And so I've always wanted to say that. And so now it's for real. So we're going to do this breaking news. And so are you ready? If you're ready, I want you to put ready in the chat. Go ahead and put ready in the chat. Let me see some readies. Let me see some readies. Are you ready? Are you ready, Janae? Ariana, thank you. Ready, ready, ready. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so let's go. So first up in the newsroom. First up. Next slide, please. First up in the newsroom. I want to give Courtney a shout out. She is my assistant and she is doing some marvelous things behind the scenes. And this is what teamwork is. This is when you have a support staff who can see what's happening and go behind the scenes and make it happen. And so we're going to talk about recovery in the workplace post-COVID. And we're going to start off strong with some good news. Following the COVID recession, both women and men's employment rates are back to pre-pandemic levels. And based on public reports, employment rates today for women are 99% of their February 2020 levels. And that was right before the COVID shutdown. So let's give ourselves, let's give the world, let's give the workforce a round of applause. But next slide. But what about this phenomenon that we've been hearing about called the Great Resignation? If you have heard that term, go ahead and either give me a thumbs up or put something in the chat. Yes? Okay. Put something, if you've heard of the Great Resignation that we've been hearing about. And if you can remember going into, thank you, Christy, she says yes. Can you remember going into that empty restaurant, being seated at a table and then nothing? No service, no drinks, no food, not even any bread, nothing, nada. We were not happy. Does anybody remember that? Put yes in the chat. If you remember this, put no bread, okay? No service. And the response that we kept hearing was that there were not enough workers. We're like, why? We don't understand. And so the Great Resignation happened concurrently. Thank you, Tammy. The Great Resignation happened concurrently with COVID, when tens of millions of Americans, thank you, Christy, they started changing jobs. And it was spurred by a workers' market, okay, which is similar to a seller's market in real estate. When the workers had the upper hand, workers now demand higher pay and actually get it, leaving other employers short-staffed. And according to my source from New York Times, those days are soon to be over as well. Okay, particularly you've probably noticed in retail and hospitality, okay, where the rate of quitting was at its highest in the height of the pandemic. But if you like your restaurant outings and your Sunday brunches, there's more good news. The rates are back to pre-pandemic levels. Next slide, please. So let's talk about something that is not getting better. Okay, and that's the effect of having young children in today's workforce. And according to the data from December of 2022, having minor children at home and it having a negative effect on women's employment is still a thing, okay? It's still a thing. Is anybody surprised? Okay, put yes or no. Are you surprised that having young children is affecting the rate of employment? Yes or no, right? Janae says no. Who else? Yes or no? Okay, and it's not a surprise. It is not a surprise. It's just like the birds and the bees, right? The story that we were told is that the stork brings the baby, okay? And then guess what happens? Moms stay home, okay? And then what happens? And then the dads, okay? The dads now go back to work in a week or two, and then all is well with the world. Well, not exactly, okay? And so many women become stay-at-home moms beyond this postpartum period because of a deep desire to do so, okay? While others do it out of necessity because of the high cost of daycare or the inability to find good care. And we get to a place where we're now sacrificing our careers for our families. And again, sometimes, a lot of times this is part of the plan, right? This isn't a bad thing, right? But what happens is that the greatest hit to employment for women comes when you have a child under the age of 5 at home, okay? And so I want you to look at the top blue dot. This is the employment rate for women who have children under 5. It's somewhere in that halfway, 65%, okay? But when you have children that are between 5 and 17, those rates are similar to those individuals who do not, those women who do not have children, young children at home. That's that bottom dot, okay? So if you're younger than 5, that's a problem, that can be an issue. But if you have children older than 5, then it's about the same, all right? Now, what's interesting, let's look at the orange dots. These are the employment rates for men based on the age of their children. And across the board, you can see that the orange dots, that men have higher employment rates. This roughly maybe 88 to about maybe 92%. And the greatest employment rates are those that are occurring in men with the youngest age children, those less than 5. And so in my best Arsenio Hall voice, it makes you want to say, right? I want you to put in the chat if you are tracking with me. If you are tracking with me, put in the chat. And so when the moms are at home picking up Legos, changing the umpteenth diaper, the dads are at work climbing the ladder, and this is compounding the issues when women are not in the workforce, in the workplace. Is anybody wanting to revisit this cycle? Say me in the chat. Okay, I saw that you're tracking with me. Put me in the chat if this is something that we need to take. We need to take we need to revisit this whole cycle. Thank you, Tammy. Yes. Okay. So we're gonna put a pin right here. Okay, and we're gonna go to entertainment news. Next slide, please. And so, in the words of Salt and Pepper, okay, let's talk about pay, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. So, let's first look at the overall earning potential for men and women. Next slide, please. So, women are in blue. Men are in orange. And this is a sobering statistic. Men out-earn women within every age group, whether it's 16 to 24, 25 to 54, 55 to 64, or 65 and older. And so the graph also shows that the earning potential for women in blue peaks at a period in a time point when you would expect it to rise, 25 to 54. That's the second group of bars. Now, keep in mind, this is also the time when women are fertile, okay, which adds extra credence to the former slides. Okay, now look at the men's earning potential in orange, and their earning potential continues to rise until post-retirement. Okay, next slide. Thank you, Coach Ari. He says that's something that news that she didn't know. Okay, so let's go one level deeper and look at men and women who are doing the same job. Somebody put same job in the chat, same job. Okay, this slide shows that women continue to earn less compared to their male counterparts, despite how many women are working. And the gap increases as the age increases. So if you're between 16 and 24, you're going to earn 8% less as a woman compared to your male counterpart. If you're 25 to 54, that number goes up to 16%. If you're between 55 and 64, that goes up to 22% less. And if you're over 65, that number is 27% less than your male counterparts. And these are data from the Center of American Progress. So anybody want to know why is this the thing? Somebody put why in the chat if you want to know. Okay, just say, they say why, right? Thank you, Christy. Christy says why. And so I am not a human resources person, but this is what I can share about why we have a gender pay gap. Christy says, that's my question. Absolutely. Okay, so first of all, kudos to the pay gap progress, because the gap has closed over time, and it has been relatively stable over the past 20 years, which we don't understand that either. Okay, but it's good that it's closing, but there has not been progress in the last 20 years. And this is from the Pew Research Center. And women are consistently earning 82% less than what men are earning. Okay, so here are some of the reasons. The first is that there's something called productive characteristics. Somebody put that in the chat. Productive characteristics. And it is it's the differences in education between men and women in the same job. And that can be education with the degrees that they're making or having, they're obtained. It's about experience, how many years they've been on the job, okay, or the number of hours or they've worked in a particular sector, okay. But even with that only accounts for a third of the differences, Okay, here are some of the others. And if you want to guess, wait, you can guess to see what may be coming. But the other thing is that women are overrepresented in lower earning jobs. So there's a disconnect. Okay. They're underrepresented, they're overrepresented in these lower earning jobs. And the next one is that women with children earn less than women without children. Okay, and we talked about that already. And then the last one is gender discrimination. And sometimes that is overt, out in the open, but a lot of times it's covert and you can't really put your finger on it. But again, it makes you want to say, somebody put in the chat. And now, next slide. And so next, for breaking news, we're talking about occupational segregation. What is that? Has anybody heard of occupational segregation? Right, thank you, Mona Lisa. She says, okay. Has anyone ever heard of it? And the context clues for me was that this is something that's not good. This is not something that, picking up all the clues is not good. But I want you to do this. I want you to think back to all of your teachers. I want you to think about the nurses who may have cared for you. I want you to think about the retail store employees who were checking you out. I want you to think about the hotel staff. Who do you see in these occupations? Somebody put that in the chat. Okay, who are the teachers? Who are the nurses? Who are the retail store clerks? Okay, and if you had to guess, it's mainly, thank you, Janae, it's mostly women. Thank you, Ariana. It's women. It's women. So occupational segregation is the clustering of women in just a few occupations. And the main sectors are the ones that are mostly made up of women. And they are education and health, leisure and hospitality, and retail and wholesale trade. And now I want you to think about those industries that were hit the hardest during COVID. Again, it is education and health. Unless you had COVID, thank you, Daria. Unless you had COVID, you were not coming to the doctor. You were not going to the hospital. Any procedure you were having was now postponed. And so it was hit, okay? Leisure and hospitality, okay? And whether it was going out to dinner or going to travel, okay? And then retail and wholesale trade. The stores were shut down. Everybody was on Amazon, okay? Or doing drive-through shopping. And so occupational segregation is the key reason for the gender wage gap. There are more women in lower paying jobs. And the corollary to that is there are less women in higher paying jobs, which makes it a mismatch. And so we are contributing as women, but our contributions are in lower paying careers. Yes, like technology, exactly. Okay, and so this is especially true for women without college degrees. And so next slide. And so tonight I have just shared a few of the many challenges women are facing in the workforce. We talked about the state of recovery of women post-COVID. We've talked about the effect of having young children in today's workplace. We've talked about the gender pay gap. And we've talked about occupational segregation. And I'm sure there are more. If you have one that you want to drop in the chat, go ahead and do that. I want to call attention to them. I want to do them all, but with our time constraint, I wanted to kind of hit on the ones that were staggering, that were ones that we may have heard of, and maybe one or two that we may not have heard of. But my question to you is, have you found yourself facing any of these challenges? And who is going through, yes, Mona Lisa says childcare, absolutely. Okay, and who is going through a work-related challenge right now? Okay, is anybody, can someone say me if you're going through something right now in your job? Whether that is, okay, Janae is saying yes. Devontae is saying me, yes. Teacher saying me, yes. Okay, and I want you to tell me, how is that making you feel? Okay, maybe you're feeling frustrated. Maybe you're feeling stressed. Maybe you're feeling out of control. Maybe you're feeling defeated. Maybe you're just feeling mad or angry, or it's unfair. Okay, put that in the chat. Let me hear what some of the feelings that are going on around this. Keisha saying angry. Yeah. Janae is saying frustrated. Mona Lisa says depressed. Me, she's Diaria. I hope I'm saying your name right. Mad at the end result of being undervalued. Yes. Thank you for sharing. But what are I don't just want to bring up the issues, but I want to talk about solutions. And I believe that there are two categories of solutions. There is the population-based solution. I'm going to say like a global type of solution where it's something more that's governmental, whether it's on the state level, whether it's lobbyists, maybe it's organizations fighting, doing petitions, maybe it's, federal level, maybe it's a legal case. Okay, and these are ongoing efforts that are cross-cutting and can have some impact, but usually it's a slow process. But I want to talk about some individual-based solutions. And when we talk about some things that maybe that you can do, and the first thing is we can attack the gender pay gap by maybe pursuing higher education, so we can have equal footing from the educational space. Maybe that is getting your master's. Maybe that is doing some additional certifications. Maybe that is doing some additional training. Maybe it's getting a PhD. It's doing those things that are going to now level the playing field. We can combat occupational segregation by preparing our younger women and broadening their horizons to dream bigger. We love our teachers, we love our nurses, but what if we help them to dream bigger dreams? What if we shared opportunities? Maybe we promoted scholarships or let people know what was happening, where there are opportunities that may not be mainstream. I know a physicist, she's a Black female who has come through the ranks. Who wakes up when they're, and when they're in high school or maybe in middle school, and they're like, what, I want to be an astronaut, but that's something that we need to open up and be a little bit more diligent in having our children, our girls, our young adults dream bigger dreams. The next is to add an element to your family planning. Have targeted conversations around dating in the premarital phase, in marriage, prior to having kids. What do you want the child rearing to look like? Don't be mute about it. Talk about it ahead of time and not just adopt what society says it should be. And the next is to change things up. Some may come to the realization that working the 9 to 5 for 30 years is not going to get you where you want to go, where you need to go. I know, for example, my story, so I went to medical school, and then I went to residency. and I was tied to a pager. I was taking call every third, fourth, fifth night. I was working 8 to 12-hour, 24-hour shifts and asking permission to take off. There are no mental health days for physicians. We are conditioned to work wounded, conditioned to work sick, conditioned to work in unhealthy environments. I remember this is a while back, I had nearly choked on a horse pill that I was prescribed the evening before I was to report to work. And I literally thought I was dying. And there was that moment where things just get still and you realize that the pill was lodged, and my family was looking at me, panicked, traumatized, as the ambulance was on its way. And I remember the firefighters coming through my front door, and I was laid out in the hallway bathroom, just trying to breathe, but couldn't. And as I was able to use my throat to try to squeeze the tablet to the point where I was able to get it up. But that next morning, I showed up to my physician job as if nothing had happened, right? And so these kind of situations continue to happen, and we have lost control sometimes. But today, I want to encourage you to take control of your situation. And so I want you to take out your phone. And if for some reason you're using the phone to come onto this call, just kind of hold it up. I want you to take your phone, and if you have your camera, I want you to look at yourself. I want you to take a picture of yourself if you're able to. And I want to share with you, I want you to look at it, that you are the solution to your problem. You are the solution to the problem in the workplace. Diaria, I see your text. She says, I don't mind sharing. She was laid off from my job, and I feel like, and then it went away, but I'm going to come back to you. Thank you for sharing that. And so what I want to talk about is the answer. Okay, the first answer is what was staring back at you. And go to the next slide, please. This is the solution. Okay, the first part of the solution is mentorship. Okay, get a mentor. Okay, not only are you getting some advice, some direction, but you're also getting accountability. All right, somebody put accountability in the chat. Okay, you're getting direction, advice, and you're also getting accountability. All right, and this is part of the solution. There's two things here. One is the intrapreneurship. Okay, this is a hot off the presses term that I coined. Okay, and the other side is entrepreneurship. And I know we have some business owners in the room. Okay, but let's talk about the intrapreneurship. That is when you are building yourself up from the inside. Okay, that's when you are building yourself up, when you are pouring into you. All right, and the entrepreneurship is when you are building your business. All right, if you are an entrepreneur, put biz in the chat, B-I-S or B-I-Z. Put biz in the chat if you are an entrepreneur. Okay, if that is you on the call. All right, and so I'm going to walk these down. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Janae. All right, got Diara, I think it's Diara. Okay, Ivancia. Okay, I think we got Ariana. I think we got business owners in the room. Okay, and so the solution's the same, but it's in different pathways. Thank you, Lisa. She says business owner. Okay, when you're building your entrepreneurship, you are looking within. You're building yourself up from the inside out. You are discovering who you are. You are deciding what you want, and then you are delivering on your destiny. by taking empowered action. Now let's come over to the entrepreneurship column. When you are in entrepreneurship, you are discovering what you're good at. Then you're discovering how that can bring value to others. And then you're doing the same. The last part is delivering on your destiny by taking empowered action. And I want to define empowered action. Somebody put empowered action in the chat. Okay, empowered action. And this is an important distinction between just taking action. When you're taking empowered, or when you're taking action, you're just doing stuff. You're being busy. You're all over the place. You're doing all the things, right? But when you are in empowered action, you're taking action that's going to get you to the result that you want. Okay, we're not just going around in circles. There's a direction, there's a goal, and you're taking that action that's going to get you there.